G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Want to talk about life lost to cannabis. Now over the years people have made all sorts of claims about recreational drugs and how bad they are and how many deaths it causes in the communities. This is recreational drugs. And a set of figures that springs to my mind, dating back to probably 1990 or something in Australia, was that every year there were about 20,000 recreational drug deaths. And out of those, 15,000 were tobacco and 4,500 were alcohol. And all of the rest of the recreational drugs, generally the illegal ones, they made up about 500 between them, and I think there was 350 were opiate deaths, and the opiate deaths go up and down depending on how available it is and market factors like, well, John Howard's first act when he was elected was to disband the Tasmanian Customs branch officers. So in his first Prime Ministership the price of heroin on the street in Australia dropped by 50% and the purity tripled. So if it's twice as cheap and 3 times more potent, I guess you could say that heroin became 6 times cheaper under John Howard. That caused a spike in the number of heroin overdose deaths for a couple of years that went up to about 1,000 and then dropped down to maybe 100 a year perhaps, because there's not a lot of heroin addicts out there anymore. The people who had to shove something up their arm turned to speed and amphetamine use increased, and basically amphetamine deaths from driving too fast seems to have taken over from heroin deaths. Then there was the ecstasy deaths from people who were taking too many eckies and dancing too hard and dehydrating and dropping dead. There were even a few people who were going into the kitchen and snorting too much nutmeg looking for a psychedelic experience, and they were having a cardiac arrest and dying. But nowhere in there was there any figures for the number of deaths in Australia caused by cannabis, because nobody could find any. Nobody pulls so many cones of cannabis that they have a cardiac arrest and drop dead. It just doesn't happen. And for a long time it has been my suspicion, based on observation, that the biggest health threat to cannabis users was the number of them who were adding tobacco to the mix to try and spin it out because cannabis was expensive because it's illegal. So, recently, not very recently, but recently I came into possession of some new figures in a New Scientist magazine. 7th of September 2013. Page 7. That'll be a thrill for the numerologists, won't it? Life and dope. Regular cannabis users shaved 7,000 years of healthy life off their cumulative lifespan in 2100. This may sound like a lot, but it's just a drop in the ocean compared with heroin. Opioid users lost 9.2 million years, and only 16 million people use opioids worldwide, 10 times less than use cannabis. This is just one finding from the biggest epidemiological study of mental and substance abuse disorders ever conducted. Overall, the number of healthy years of life lost through illness, disability or early death as a result of illicit drug use had increased by 52% since the previous study in 1990. Bracket the Lancet, doi.org/NN6, close bracket. Cannabis, by far the most commonly used illicit drug in the world, accounts for an, quote, absolutely tiny, unquote, health impact, says Louisa Degenhardt at the University of New South Wales in Australia. Isn't that interesting? Let's just break those figures down again. 9.2 million years of life lost by 16 million users. So that means 0.575 of a year lost off their life for every year that they are using opioids. That's about 7 months. So in 10 years, they've lost 5 years and 9 months off their life expectancy, right? Compared to the cannabis users, who lost a grand total of 7,000 years, lost by 160 million users. So that is 0.437 years, or 22.984416 minutes. So every year that you're a pot smoker, you're going to shave 22, nearly 23 minutes off your life expectancy. So if you smoke pot for 10 years, you've shaved 3.830736 hours off, which is 3 hours 49 minutes and 50 seconds. And if you knew a 38 years pot smoker, like they'd have to be in their early 50s to have done that, then your 52-year-old who smoked pot for 38 years has shaved a grand total of 14 hours and 33 minutes of healthy life expectancy off what they would otherwise have. So what that means, I think what that means is that the hue and cry which is bruited about by the health and the legal and the law enforcement community, the sociologists and the do-gooders, about the alleged harm that's done by all of the wicked evil recreational drugs, they are not considering the vast numbers of people who apparently partake of such substances and do themselves no harm at all. Yeah, sure, there are cases of people who have one taste of heroin and that's it. They've got to use it 5 times a day for the rest of their life and nothing else matters. But for every one of them, there's apparently quite a lot of people who can have a taste of heroin 3 or 4 times a year at a party and enjoy themselves, and that's all they ever want to use it for. But anyway, there you go. If you smoke pot for a year, you've shaved 22 minutes off your life expectancy. Gee, pot smokers must be terribly brave. But if 38 years of smoking pot doesn't shave a single day off your life expectancy, I think you'd have to smoke pot every day for 50 years or something to lose 1 day of your life expectancy. So how many police officers does it take to prevent how many people smoking enough pot to have actually saved one entire human lifetime? I don't think there's that many police officers in the whole fucking country. Compared to all the recreational drugs, cannabis is harmless. It doesn't send people schizophrenic, but people who are going to go schizophrenic do not get any better when they get stoned. And a stoned schizophrenic is probably not worth having, so people who have a predisposition towards schizophrenia probably should stay away from pot. That's 1% of the population at large. More people die of peanuts. There are more people who have a peanut allergy than that. You don't see peanuts being taken off the supermarket shelves because some people foam at the mouth and drop dead when they, rub a peanut lightly past their lips. But some people do that. Does that mean all peanuts are bad? No. It means some people shouldn't eat peanuts. Anyway, that's how much life is lost to cannabis. 3 parts, 2/10 of 5/8 of sweet fuck all. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.